Welcome to the Budcast, episode 4, where we make dumb solutions to smart problems, and we create smart problems for dumb solutions. Disclaimer. We don't claim to know anything that we're talking about, and we're not experts in any way, shape, or form, and our opinions are not facts. Bud.exe has successfully started. Ted, how we doing?
I'm good, man. Glad you started up properly this time.
You know, some days it's just like... And yeah, it's just kind of like that.
Bud.exe is frozen. Would you like
some
to
days,
restart
man.
the program?
Some days. Some days.
Man.
Check Ted's Twitter. Maybe you'll piece that together. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
we'll post a little fun highlight later. Because Jesus, man, that was
it'll be in the Discord. You'll piece it together if you're smart and pay attention to things.
Today. Really hot start today.
So I do have a fun fact though, and I remember someone told me this forever ago, and I think it was around the Golden Gate Bridge. And the Golden Gate Bridge was originally supposed to be, I think, like an amber gold to complement the sunset. And it actually is painted orange, mostly because the steel that arrived to build the Golden Gate Bridge was coated in this like burnt red-orange color to avoid corrosive elements. And, well, that's the color of the Golden Gate Bridge now. So there's your fun fact for the day.
A lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. And it's weird that they still called it the Golden Gate Bridge, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it wasn't named before it got painted. They could have... Now it's the Red Bridge. It's just the Red Bridge. And that's it, you know what I mean? Like,
that's the mentality of an architect. Design something and then worry about engineering it later. Like, they were like, all right, we need a new bridge. Well, let's start with the name.
Yeah.
Like, you do the name last.
It's just I see these memes all the time, especially around like finals time every year, like, you know, April, May every year, where people write papers and they submit it with the wrong title. So they just end up being like, fuck this class, I hate this professor, and this whole thing is a shit show, right? And then they submit their paper that way because they titled it before they worked on it. You work on the thing, then give it a name.
I've done that before, actually. And I got an email from my professor. And they're like, hey, can you resubmit your paper? I think you submitted a draft to me. I'm like, what makes you think that? You're like, well, your title says final paper this time for the last time for real this time. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's the final paper. I just forgot to change the title.
I mean,
I've been there. I've done that.
I think we recorded like episode 0 before we gave it a name. I'm pretty sure like we decided on a name literally as it got posted to YouTube.
We did. That's why it was, I think when it uploaded, it was the Ted and Bud podcast episode 0, I think. Yeah. But that's what we were going to name it. And I remember in the intro for that one, we said I don't know what we're calling this podcast.
I'm pretty sure. We just...
I remember specifically.
Yeah, we just let this train ride right off the rails into fucking chaos.
All right, Ted, so what do you got for me?
All right.
What do you got for us?
What do I have for us? Well, okay, so you pitched this idea yesterday, day before? Time is a lie. He pitched this idea about how uncomfortable it is that we've never seen the back of our heads. Or never comfortably seen the back of our heads.
I remember this.
All right.
Yeah, how does that make you feel?
So, it's only weird when you think about it, right? It's like one of those, like, unconscious thoughts that become conscious once you think about it. You know what I mean? Like if somebody tells you, hey, you're manually breathing now. Suddenly you start thinking about your breathing and you're doing it.
You son of a bitch.
I know, I'm the worst. It's the same way somebody says you can feel all the hairs on your head. It's the same way somebody says you're now wearing socks and you can feel the socks on your feet, all right?
I'm not wearing socks!
Fuck. I feel like it only... The thought that I haven't, like... directly seen the back of my head, I think only bothers me when I think about it. And then I think about it further, it's like, well, I've never seen my face other than like the tip of my nose, like occasionally a stray beard hair, you know, pokes its way out, but like...
You should specify that you haven't seen the back of your head without the use of an external apparatus.
Okay, sure. Without a series of mirrors.
You know, everyone's gonna...
Right.
You say, like, directly seen, but then everyone's gonna be like, well, just use mirrors, dumbass.
Right, but then it's not direct. You have to see it through a reflection.
I don't remember. I'll move my microphone a little closer. Not sure if it's where it needs to be or not, but now it is.
Yeah, it's fine now.
I've also got my one ear uncovered this time because I noticed that when I can't hear my voice through at least one of my ears, I speak in not perfect English. I slur, and we're going to leave it at that.
All right.
But yeah, no, like, So my thought when I posted that, I was actually in the bathroom utilizing the facilities, we'll say. And I'm just like, huh, I see my hand every day. I know what my hand looks like. I've got a scar here and here and here and here and here because I played in the woods as a kid and got caught in lots of thorn apples and brambles. But that's besides the point. And then I thought, well, I know what my hand looks like. And if someone were to cut up my hand and present it to me, I could probably, through searing amounts of pain, identify which hand my hand was. But could you do that if you were presented with multiple pictures of the back of your head with the same haircut? Like, if you took like 5 or 6 people in like a police lineup, let's say, and you had them all with the same haircut, same hair color, but they didn't change the shape of your head or anything, could you identify yourself by the image of the back of your head? Because you don't see the back of your head nearly as often as you see other parts of your body or your face through a mirror.
So my direct answer to that question is, I guess it depends on how much of the back of your head you can see. Like if there's a square frame that's this big and your head is literally touching the edges of it, yeah, probably not. But if you can see like the top of your shoulder blades, right, or the back of your neck,
well, that's no longer the back of your head,
right? But it depends on where the picture for this lineup is.
All right.
So there's that. But my second thought is like you've seen your hands, but you look at your hands pretty constantly, right? Like hands are constantly in front of your face. Every time I put my glasses on, my hands are touching my face. I sit there like this all the time. I
grew my beard quite frequently.
Right. Like when I'm writing something down, I'm looking at the back of my hands. When I'm typing, my hands are present in front of me. They're constantly in motion. They're constantly in front of you. So hands might be a bad threshold, right? If somebody took, like, let's say your elbow, right? They managed to just sever elbows, right? Could you identify your own elbow? Like it's not just the back of your head because you can't see it. I mean, I'm fully capable of seeing, hey, this is my elbow, this is right here. But, like, where's the cutoff where you can stop identifying your own body?
So I guess, and that's actually a really good question. I like that. I guess it would have to deal with the uniqueness of body parts between humans. Like, does everyone's big toe look like everyone else's big toe? Does everyone's elbow look like everyone else's elbow, though? I feel like elbows are pretty consistent in their shape and, like, defining properties outside of, like, scars or, like, excessive hair or, like, a mole. But, like, everyone, I have yet to find someone's head who's, okay, that sounds weird. So, I have yet to find someone
I don't come across
who didn't have,
either.
I have yet to find someone who didn't have a weird shaped head different from mine in some aspect. The jaw is different. Their head, taller forehead, shorter forehead. Like, they got, like, thicker, like my shop teacher, Mr. Owens, like, his eyebrows, like, jetted out. Like, it was, like, everyone's head is, I feel like the head of a human is vastly different in shape and contour to almost every other human, kind of like your fingerprints. Like, they're all unique to us, sort of. Which, by the way, I think if I'm remembering, correct me if I'm wrong, the study of the bumps and stuff on someone's head is called phrenology. I think.
Sounds right.
I learned it in general psychology.
Now that we're both agreeing, I feel like we're wrong.
Son of a bitch. I gotta know now. I gotta know. But go ahead with your thought while I look this up.
I just, there are ways that you could probably figure it out if you had enough time.
Okay, yeah. We're right.
Okay, cool. Almost never right. This is a milestone.
I was the one that was right. You just agreed.
Well, whatever. But regardless, right? Like, I think there are ways that you could go about figuring out your own body parts, right? So, like, you and I are both pretty tall guys. Like, if it's a severed limb, right? An arm.
It's gonna be longer.
It's gonna be longer than a shorter one that's posed next to it. I think there are, like, skin tone issues, right? If you find a body part, I'm going to assume that it's, like, fresh enough to not have decomposed to identify it, but I feel like this is a weird variable I'm adding. That, like, you can match up to, like, skin tones, right? Or, like, I think there would be ways to figure out that a body part is yours, but like if you found 5 people with the same skin tone I had, right? Like all other variables exactly the same except one was my elbow and 4 other people's elbows, right? I don't know that I could confidently say that's 100% my elbow.
See, but like with your hand, you probably could.
Right. So I'm wondering where the line is.
Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like
hold on. My skin is slightly saltier than Ted's skin, so I think I could find my arm if I was allowed to taste test.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
My chair has a lock, and it's bad.
Same. It happens to me all the time. But like, I feel pretty confident that I could get my hands, right?
Sure.
I feel like I have enough scars that, like, my forearms, I could figure those out. I think I could get my feet, because I think my feet are, like, awkwardly shaped. I think I got weird-looking toes. Like, I could probably, like, piece those together. Outside of that...
I have moles on my right arm that form a box.
I guess that's an identifying factor?
I've done calculations on them. I know the angles.
Sometimes I worry about you. But
you don't do that?
No,
I do.
No, in fact, I don't.
Do you do that?
I just...
Let us know in the comments if you measure the moles on your body.
If we get a single comment, if we get one,
I'll be the one that leaves that comment.
If we get a second one, I'm gonna be concerned. One bud is enough. We don't need duplicates.
God was gonna make multiple of me, but he got too drunk and dropped the mold. Which explains a lot.
I just like, yeah. I don't know how many body parts I could identify. I really like. I'm pretty confident that I know what I look like, but I think if you had to take one individual part and force me to identify it, like, I don't know. I think I would be absolutely terrible at that game.
Yeah, no, I see, and that's where that question was posed. But it's definitely a weird question. Don't get me wrong, but it's weird. It's weird. So then, like, what is the probability that you'd actually be able to find 5 different people with your exact skin tone and relative body shape? Like, what's the probability of that? Like, how many? We have, like, what, 7.8 billion humans on this planet?
Something like that.
I feel like the probability of that is actually a bit higher than you might think.
Like, I have to imagine that, like, all right, so color happens on a spectrum, right? Like, whether it's like the spectrum of visible light or like skin tones.
That's exactly what it is.
Right, or skin tones, right? Like one way or another, like you can pass along a line and everything is going to fall between the lightest and the darkest, or the I forget what order the colors go in on the wave spectrum. Is it red to purple? Red to violet? I don't know. But anyway, like,
I should know this.
That's why I asked.
What's blue have? The reason the sky is blue is because it has X wavelength. Fucking.
I think it's red. I think it goes red to purple. I think it goes red to purple.
Yeah, it does. Where purple has a longer wavelength?
Yes, red is tighter, purple's longer. But
yeah,
I think, like, while no 2 people may have exactly the same skin tone, right? I feel like you could probably get close enough that it's not inherently discernible through just the human eye. Like,
sure.
You could probably get close enough. I guess, like, you have to eliminate a whole lot of variables to could you identify your whole body, right? But, like, if you assume that, like, similar skin tones, like, similar enough shape to create the controversy of do you know? But to find someone with the exact same skin tone, the exact same elbow, the exact, like maybe not. Maybe not.
Interesting. Probability is a weird thing, though.
I love probability. I took stats.
Infinite monkeys, infinite typewriters, Shakespeare.
I took stats 4 times. I love probability so much. Like,
why did you take stats 4 times?
All right, so I took AP stats in high school because
that doesn't count.
I took statistics 4 times, right? So the first time was AP Stats in high school. And I took it because I was told that every single major I was ever going to have in college was going to need a stats course. So I was like, might as well finish it before I even get to college. Screw you, the system. Unfortunately, despite getting a 5 out of 5 on my AP test, I wasn't able to apply it to credits because the school I went to ended up, just shoving it up my butt and accepting me one day after you had to apply the credits. So I had to take stats again regardless. I took a regular stats class to fulfill a math requirement. We needed a separate stats class for psych, so it's like psych stats. It was like a lab essentially for us, but it filled the major. And then I declared my minor as economics, and the only thing I could do to finish my minor with within the time frame I already had to get my major classes out of the way was another stats class. And so I actually
Beautiful.
that last stats class, I told him beforehand that hey, I've already finished this class 3 times and I definitely don't need to do it again. And he goes, all right, do you want to be a tutor in it? We'll pay you. And so I got paid to take a class for the 4th time.
Hey, we take those, but
Yeah,
you still had to pay for the class through tuition, right?
Well, yeah, but it bought me beer because I didn't have another job while I was
Fair enough.
college, so paid for beer.
That's kind of funny. I like that. I like
stats. Probability was not my favorite part, but I guess the deviations, right? The way that everything from human behavior to random number generators to whatever have a predictable enough pattern that you can plan it out, right? If you take a Plinko board, right? the Price is Right, the Plinko
Yeah, no, I know what that is.
If you take 100 of those discs, I guess is the best word for it,
It'll build a bell curve.
If you drop it in the same spot from the middle every single time, you're going to get some that hit the outer edges, but most of them are going to land in the middle because everything stays the same. It creates a normal distribution. If you do a random number generator from now until the end of time, the numbers are going to stay about even on the whole. Sure, you may if you random number generator 1 to 5, you might hit 4 7 times in a row, and it's an anomaly, sure, but the numbers are going to even themselves out as you do it longer and longer and longer and longer.
See, I hate the Plinko machine analogy because I'm a man of hard facts, and everything is exactly the way that it needs to be. And if you say something's exact, it's fucking exact.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying that if you drop a Plinko disc into a Plinko machine at the exact same spot, at the exact same time, every single time, it should land in the exact same spot at the end. And it doesn't, because it's not exact.
All right, bud. All right.
It just bothers me.
Get your science shit out of here.
Are you familiar with the double pendulum?
I've seen some stuff on it, yeah.
So in short, double pendulum is a stick with a joint in the middle and a weight at the end and a weight at the joint. And when you drop them, they can swing past each other. So that joint can swing past itself, and then the big actual pendulum can swing. So it'll be almost like the moon orbiting the planet orbiting the solar system. Point being, you can drop that pendulum in any location on that double pendulum system, and it'll create crazy erratic motions that are never like any other. And if you drop it from the same spot, the same place, every single time, without changing anything else, you're always going to see some different changing erratic pattern because you actually didn't drop it from the exact same spot. And that bothers me. The amount of precision that you'd need to get to an exact spot to even come close to having a similar path with that pendulum is absurd.
Well,
we're talking literally atoms. If your pendulum is off by atoms, it's gonna develop a different path.
I think so I watched this guy, and he was talking about the double pendulum and the idea of true randomness or chaos or whatever, right? And he's using the double pendulum to argue against it, where even though it may seem it's because you didn't create the same situation. And so he was explaining how if you use your Amazon Alexa, right, to just flip a coin, it doesn't actually give you random results, right? The way it does it is it processes the number. I forget which machine he was specifically talking about it, but it uses the digits of pi. It's theoretically endless, theoretically goes on forever without any repetition or any like structured pattern. So it's just going to give you, every time you ask it to flip a coin, it's just going to go through the next number of pi. And if it's odd, it's going to give you tails, and if it's even, it's going to give you heads, and that's how it decides your heads or tails from now until the end of time.
Interesting.
I forget which machine that he said did it, and I wish I knew who did the video so I could reference it again. But
that's actually really cool.
But like the things that we know to be random, right, aren't random. If you could slow down time and see the physics of a coin flip and know how much force you gave it on your thumb, and you could like control all of those variables again, right? Because like you can stick a quarter here and you have a way that you can flick it up without it spinning, right? You just lift your thumb, it's just going to go up, it's just going to go down. If you torque your thumb again the next time, well then it starts spinning, right? And then this time you flick it even harder, it spins even faster. This time it spins like a little less, and then where it's spun to and where it hits the table and how it bounces to get you the next, like if you could control all of those tiny little like like
you'd get the same
micro
result
amounts of force,
time.
Right? So it's not really random, it's just the circumstances you created upon it. We don't have an example of anything that is truly 100% random.
That bothers me.
Yeah,
I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
I just like, random is random. Like, oh, well, I threw the die this direction this time, and like I threw it in the same direction. That's randomness. And so then, what's the exact definition of random?
Like I guess the idea of random would be complete unpredictability.
Well then,
my favorite example, Bud, is dice. Okay, you take two dice to play Monopoly. All right. You roll those two dice together, they create a series where it is random, right? Because the two dice can hit each other, they can hit the table, they can miss each other entirely. There's spin, there's the way that they can bounce off of whatever surface, right? Theoretically, it gives you the idea that your roll is random, right? And that's more
13.
fair that we can make it just pulling the next card out of the deck, right? So, if you roll those two dice, those two 6-sided dice, you're going to get between 2 and 12. Can I show you a really fun thing?
Sure.
Do you have two 6-sided there?
I do, actually.
Awesome. Roll the
I
first
pulled out
one.
my D&D dice.
Roll the first one without rolling the second one.
Okay. 1.
Awesome. Great place to start. First number, right? So you know that now that you have to roll the second dice on top of that, okay?
Yep.
What numbers can you possibly achieve rolling the second dice to add it to that one?
2 through 7.
Right. 2 through 7, okay? Roll that first die again. Get something other than a 1.
1.
Point. Something other than a 1. Prove my point.
6.
Awesome. What numbers can you get? Roll. What numbers
7
can you get?
12.
Okay. So no matter what scale, whether you start with a 1 or whether you start with a 6, the numbers that you can get include 2 through 7, 7 through 12, right? Every combination that you roll on that first one can always roll a 7. If you roll 2 dice, you are statistically more likely to get a 7 than any other number because you can always combine the other dice with it to get a 7.
Yeah. So then one would argue that it's not necessarily random.
Exactly.
Because the probability says that you will get 7s more often than you will get anything else.
Mm-hmm. There is
so does that change if you were to roll, let's say, a 12-sided die, which conveniently I have, because now it's just one die.
So you theoretically, like, as you create more examples for yourself, right? Your odds of rolling any of those given numbers, right, is the closest thing that we could have to random on a one-time event. Once you've rolled that dice 12 times, right, on that 12-sided die, it's statistically like reasonable to expect to get each one of those numbers once because they have an equal chance every single time.
Yeah.
The more times you roll it, once you've rolled it 50,000 times, those numbers are going to look much closer together than the first 3 times you rolled the dice. You got a 6, an 11, and another 11, right?
Yeah.
The things that we believe to be random are not random when you create them on a larger sample.
That upsets me.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have anything that's like...
What really upsets me is I know that that's true.
Yeah, we don't have anything that is a true indication of complete and total random.
So then what about the human brain?
What about it?
Because, like, I'm trying to think, the human brain is the most complex machine that mankind understands, because we don't understand the human brain.
We don't.
And we're never going to. So then, could one say that if you took 400,000 monkeys and 400,000 typewriters and put them in a room, that they would create, theoretically, random results because the human brain is uncontrollable? Well, no, because then monkeys are relatively intelligent. Relatively. Compared to like a snail, maybe. So like they would develop patterns, and patterns aren't random.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Bitch!
Is there anything that you're like you have a rational fear of? Like there's something that happened to you that you're now terrified of that thing, right?
On the spot, I don't think I could come up with something.
So imagine like you're a kid making yourself a sandwich as a 7 or 8 year old, right? You use the knife to spread your mayonnaise on your bread or whatever, and you drop that knife on your foot, right?
Ah!
Right. Your patterns of behavior, right, every time you use a knife are going to be reflective of realizing, hey, if I drop this on my foot, it hurts. Whether you realize it or not, your actions in that moment are seemingly random or uncontrolled from an outside variable, but they're affected from the fact that as you've created a pattern from the things you've done before.
Son of a bitch. That bothers me so much.
Yeah, you can stick an infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number of typewriters, and eventually they're going to give you Shakespeare. And while that seems random, it's just because you've run out of other patterns to use.
Son of a bitch. And I feel like I've heard this somewhere, like watching like maybe Numberphile or something on YouTube. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I just got to find a way to get my D20 to roll 20 every single time.
You stick it in the oven, 250 degrees for 10 minutes.
I'm going to slap you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it won't be every single time, but...
No. You've ruined the die. It's no longer random. It's weighted.
Yeah, that's like theoretically most dice that you buy are weighted, even if it's by microns. Like,
well, yeah, they're weighted. They have mass, dumbass.
Well, I mean, they're weighted in a favor of a certain number, like almost as a guarantee. It's almost impossible to make it that perfect 100% of the time.
Ugh, that frustrates me.
Yeah. Randomness and statistics and probability are a really cool thought, and the longer you think about them, the more your brain hurts, the more you want to learn, and the more you can't learn because everything's finite.
There's something similar, well, I don't want to say similar to probability or anything like that. That, your statement right there, the more you learn, the more you realize you can't learn. I don't remember what it's called, but if you think, like, you have, like, a match, like, you light a match and you're in a really dark room, and you'll see what's around you. Mm-hmm. And let's say you find a flashlight. You turn that flashlight on. Your light becomes brighter.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're finding more things. Maybe you find a brighter light source. And this analogy, I don't remember who it was, and I wish I could, like, reference the source.
We're doing really well with sources today. Really well with sources.
Oh, yeah. We're flawless. Well, we started the Budcast, and, well, we didn't start the Budcast, so that was rough. I'm drawing blanks today, man.
Bud.exe has failed to load.
Has crashed spectacularly. Oh, wait, that reminds me. In Satisfactory, I've actually found some lore in Satisfactory I want to show you after this in-game, so We'll worry about that later. All right. If you want to find that yourself and you're watching this and you play Satisfactory, inside of the hub, go into the toilet and look at the wall. There's a poster. Okay. It's been graffitied on by... And it's actually kind of cool, but...
If you don't play it, I'll stream it after this. But...
The more you increase your light in that area, the more stuff you're finding, which means the more you can expand that light. And this is a reference to the amount of stuff you learn just merely uncovers how much more you don't know, exponentially so.
And
so, like, if you find yourself, I mean, exactly like a circle. Like, if you find that you have a circle with a radius of 5, well, 2 pi r, that's circumference, right?
Yeah.
Pi r squared is area. Cherry pie delicious, apple pies are too. Yeah, okay. So I use that all the time.
I've never heard that, but I love it.
Dude, it's amazing. So, like, easy math, we're going to round pi down to 3 for easy math. So 2 times 5 is 5, 5 times 5 is 10. So you've got a circumference of 10 feet.
Plus. You just did 5 times 5 is 10.
2 pi r.
You just said 5 times
2
5
times
is
3.
10. Right.
Yeah.
Is 6.
25. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
tired. I just woke up like
Numbers hard.
an hour ago? Maybe a little less than that. I don't know. So, like, now you've got a radius of a circumference of 25 units. And if you were to take that, now the radius of that circle of 25, so you can also do pi over 4d, that's for area, d squared. Pi d also works for that. So if you did pi of 25, so 25 times 3, 75. So now you've got a circumference of 75. And it's going to continue to grow exponentially like that, whereas originally it was a jump of 20 units from 5 to 25. You just jumped from 25 to 75. That's a 50-unit jump. So as you learn more, you find so much more that you haven't learned yet. And I don't remember what it's called, but I was going somewhere with this. I've lost it. I'm going to shut up.
But then take it one step further, right?
Okay.
Like, yeah, we learned this thing. Now we can learn all these other things, right? And we learned those things, and we can learn even more things, all right?
Sure.
But those things existed whether we knew them or not. Whether we lit that match to find that flashlight in that really dark room, the flashlight was always there. And
no, I recognize that, and I know that.
And that's what I'm saying. So even though you can take the information that you've learned, and you can apply it to more things that you can learn, it doesn't matter if you've learned it because it's true whether you know it or not.
Yes.
I don't know how NASA sends a rocket into space, okay? I'm sure you have a better idea than I do. I don't need an explanation.
I do.
But
I do.
Dude, I don't know how to make that work.
I teach orbital mechanics to my mother when we go for our walks at night. And she hates and loves it. But anyways.
No matter if I know how to make it work or not, it doesn't make it working impossible. The things that I don't know doesn't mean that those things don't exist. It just means I don't know how to do them. Of all of the knowledge there is to know in the entire universe, of all of the way that everything works, everything that's ever existed functions, even if we get to the point where we've learned all of that all existed before we knew it. So you're just discovering things in a finite space. Everything is already predefined, and we're just figuring out what room we're in, and it's painful. It's painful.
I love that. I love that analogy. It's there. You just got to find it. It at least in a term. Maybe let's reference it in a way that's more of self-esteem based. It's there. You don't have to struggle with inventing dark matter. It already exists. You just got to find it. It's weird to say it like that, but it sounds encouraging when you say that it already exists. You just got to find it.
I think it's hopeful in a sense that if it can be done, you just have to figure out how to do it. I think there's a weird sense of hope in that, but I think it's debilitating to realize that no matter what we learn, there's an endpoint, and whether we know it or not,
yes, there is.
Yeah.
Fuck. Well, so I guess that would depend on perspective. So from our perspective, what we know and what we don't know is infinite. From our perspective, you and me. We know that maybe someday, if humanity doesn't bomb itself into extinction, that we might, a very, 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 very small chance, because I am quite positive that if it's not us killing ourselves, some astrological event is going to destroy us. That we will never find everything that exists. And in that regard, in that perspective, knowledge is infinite. That there is no end, because we will never see that end. Despite the fact that we all can surmise and assume and have a pretty solid structure on that assumption that the knowledge of the universe is finite, but there's just so much of that we might as well just call it infinite, because we're never going to find it all.
I guess you can say it's there's the possibility of it being limitless, right? Alright, we're about to get super meta. Thoughts inside of other thoughts, alright?
So are we working with single universe theory or infinite universe theory? Multiverse?
I don't think answering that question changes my thought process.
It will change mine and maybe yours. We'll get to that. You say what you're going to say.
Alright, so let's say that one of the things that we don't know, right, is that the human stopping point for learning, where we stop having the ability to comprehend ends before all of the knowledge of the universe. So we can recognize, for instance, like, okay, I'm trying to come up with an extreme example. I'm going to use black holes again, okay? So even if we get to the point, right, where we can fully understand a black hole, we can recognize that we have no idea how black holes like have like how they let's say hypothetically we don't know what happens once you've gone through one, right? But we know how they start and we know how fast they travel and they know what happens to you while you're in it. The only thing you don't know is what happens when you're out the backside of it, right?
Assuming there's a backside.
And sure, but like we stop having the ability to comprehend it, right? You can't teach a standard ant, right, to do calculus, right? Their brains will, like, no matter what, will never have the capacity to do it, right? So the human brain, the limitations of humanity stops before we find all of the answers. And even though we recognize that there are more answers to be had, we're also smart enough to realize we're at our limitations, right? So in that sense, like, the possibility for continuous learning is endless. But we've reached our own limitations. So the potential for infinite knowledge is there. But is infinite knowledge actually really there?
I didn't think about that. That's interesting. So, yeah, no, yeah. Dogs don't know that there's space, maybe. I mean, didn't we send a dog up into space?
I thought
the Russians did.
The Russians sent a monkey.
Okay.
I don't know if a dog's ever been.
Anyways, I know mice have been, like rats.
Mm-hmm. But, like, okay, so even if you have... Dogs are a great example, right? You have the ability to teach Carson, right, that space exists, okay?
Your dog.
Yeah. You have...
Your dog who screams bloody murder when your mom walks through the door.
If
you want to teach him...
there are days I'd like to send him to space, okay? Whether he learns or not. Just kidding. But, like, if the capacity that he has for learning, right? Dogs learn just like the rest of us, right? Like Pavlov proved that 100 years ago, right? Maybe longer than 100 years ago. I don't know. Corona's been forever. But like, if he has the capacity for continued learning, and he can learn that space is different than Earth, right? And the things that he knows.
1936.
Okay. Like, but if dogs can learn, right? Like, we know that they can learn. Maybe they can continue to learn that space exists. But can they solve where, like, existence was created, how the universe started? Maybe not.
Big Bang!
Right. Okay. But do they have the ability to conceptualize the Big Bang, right? Like,
we don't.
Right. Exactly. Is that something we may be able to learn in the future? Maybe. I don't know where human limitations stop. Like, but...
So you're saying that in regard to human limitation... and never being able to achieve the essence of all knowledge because we hit that like 90% threshold.
Right.
Like in that aspect that knowledge is infinite simply because we cannot achieve all knowledge.
Yeah. If all the knowledge there has ever been to know is here at this width, all right? Humans at their max capacity, when we've learned everything that humans can learn.
We use more than 10% of our brain.
Yeah, okay. Stop it. But like if full knowledge is here, this is knowing everything. This is omnipotence. This is you are God. Okay.
Yeah.
And human limitation happens here instead of here, right? Like just smaller, right? Then it seems like the small little gaps that are between the two could be infinite because we can't know it.
I like that. That's cool. That's cool to think that way. Because, you know, there are things that humans, we're just not going to understand. I guarantee it. I would bet my life on it because, well, A, I'm going to be dead before you can find out. Right? It's just that there's, from what we currently understand, which could be wrong in the first place, there's just so much that it's infinite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but like, I want to go back to that thing that you mentioned about like there being that finite amount of knowledge.
Okay.
Is that within our universe? and only our universe. Because
So I guess-
I'm a proponent of the multiverse theory.
So for me, that's a 2-part answer. Okay, so
All right.
you may have a finite amount of knowledge within a given universe. Okay, I don't think what's in that finite amount of knowledge includes anything to do with any other universe. The knowledge that other universes exist, right? Like, can be part of that finite amount of knowledge.
Okay.
But the knowledge that happens in other universes doesn't affect us, so it's like it's two separate veins of this is what our universe has to know, this is what that universe has to know. They don't necessarily intersect other than the one small little piece that other ones exist. Because if you take the knowledge, right? So imagine like a whole bunch of small boxes in a really big box, okay?
Yeah.
The real big box is every universe ever. And each small box is one individual universe, right? You would like all of the facts, all of the things that there are to know inside your own little universe, inside that one really small box, has nothing to do with anything else, because even if the one detail, right, that is different, like, could theoretically change so many things, you'd have to learn an entirely new basis of knowledge, and you can't base it off what you already know. So while the limitations of all of the universes fit in that big box, I think the interaction between any of those two small boxes in there is like nothing. It's just the knowing that other boxes exist.
Okay, so let me hit you with this then, and I'm gonna try to be that asshole that infuriates you just a little bit.
You're good at it.
So, ha. Anyways, so those miniature boxes. Let's go back to when humans were just inventing telescopes.
Okay.
And being able to observe celestial bodies.
Sure.
Like Mars.
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going with this?
Not quite.
Mars has a different atmosphere than Earth. The speed of sound on Mars is going to be different than the speed of sound on Earth.
You're a piece of shit.
So then why is it not feasible to think that knowing the speed of sound in a different universe on a different planet would aid us, or not the speed of sound even, like maybe the speed of light? Why wouldn't knowing the speed of light in a different universe be knowledge that, even if it's not applicable, but still knowledge that could be known by a separate universe where although that's not applicable to our universe, it's still knowledge inside of this box. That your box is not outside of the big box. The thing that's in common is that all of those little boxes are inside the big box.
Okay, so let's use like a historical example. Okay, so let's use.
I'm bad with history. I failed it twice.
I know. I
failed global twice.
I'm trying to use a topic that isn't like societally.
1945, Archduke Ferdinand was murdered. I don't even know if was it 45?
39.
That's the First World War. 45 was the Second World War.
Oh, that was World War One. So that would have been 1908.
Mm.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Let's take. I'm trying to use an example that like is an easy example to use to make the point, but it's kind of like societally baited. All right, so let's take an example like slavery, right? Okay. So in this universe, slavery existed, right? It's created a point where different races react differently to other races. Like, after time has passed from it happening, I think that's always going to be true. If in another society, or in another universe, rather, like, slavery didn't exist, all other things are true, right? The things that we know about interpersonal relations and, like, relating between, like, across races, you can't exclude your internal and intrinsic biases that you know from your own life in this universe. You can't apply them to a different universe because the basis of knowing that is wrong. So while sure you could know it, right, you can't leave the things that you previously knew out of it to learn how that universe would operate. Does that make sense? even if like so with the race example, right? Even if you're not a racist person, you still recognize that like in this country specifically, lots of different groups that aren't, white Europeans, right? And including some white Europeans were at one point like enslaved, right? You can't like the ways in which you've known certain groups of people to be, whether you like are prejudiced against them or not, you still have beliefs about certain groups of people because of the way that they were treated formerly and how the races have grown to like interact together, right? And you can't take those implicit biases, right, that have come through history, right? You can't take those biases and apply them to a world or a universe where those biases never existed. Those things that made you have those biases don't exist.
Okay. I think the thing that's confusing me is that's a really weird example to be comparing, because I don't know as
race was the easy one because there's a whole lot of historical examples about why certain
people don't like other people. I recognize that. I recognize and respect that. It's just like my brain was so far in left field that I was actually in the parking lot in regards to like hard and fast like numbers, like speed of light, speed of sound, number of celestial bodies that like Mars has, like
you know what, use the speed of light, right? The speed at which you see things, the speed at which you hear things are different. You can tell that when you play a baseball game and you're standing in the outfield and you can see the guy swing the bat and you can see the ball leave his bat. You're going to have to run for that moving ball before you hear that he hit the ball.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we know about our universe, right?
Yeah.
The time it takes for that ball to get somewhere, right? Like, you're going to have to react to what you can see before you can react to what you can hear. Now travel to a different universe where every single thing is exactly the same, except the speeds of those two things are flipped. You're going to hear things before you can see it. You would now live in a place, in a way, where you'd have to react to sounds before you reacted to sights. And because of what we already know, we can't know that and have it coexist.
I mean, we can know that.
It's a thing that we could learn, but we can't learn it as an independent thing.
It's not applicable to us in our universe with our skill set.
It's like taking the thing out of their box, putting it in our box, and learning how it acts in our box, right? We can't learn about them in the way that they learned about it, right? We would have to learn about it based on the things that we already know. Knowledge is based on history and patterns and what you already know.
Okay, all right.
So you can't take a different universe's knowledge and apply it to your own without using things you know from your own universe already.
Okay. Yeah,
when I played baseball as a 5th grader, right? I didn't have to know the speed of sound. I didn't have to know the speed of light. It's just a thing that you learn because the rules of your universe stay the same. As a fully functioning adult, you could give me all of the math and all of the numbers and how things are supposed to work, but if you put me in an outfield in a different universe where speed of sound and speed of light were flipped, I couldn't do it. It's something I'd have to relearn, and I'd have to learn it based on what I already know. I couldn't learn it the same way that somebody from that universe could learn it.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. And I like and hate it.
Okay.
Because, like, I'm thinking of a very finite example where, and because of that finite example, it's making me think that while what you're saying is true, what I'm saying is also simultaneously true, where there are things that you could take from a different universe and apply it to ours, and where you couldn't apply it to ours, where it just wouldn't work.
Right.
But there's also some situations where it could. Let's say that the speed of light is just slower in that universe, and our speed of light in our universe is fast, and we have the ability to slow down light.
Mm-hmm.
So if something is true over in that universe due to the speed of light being slower, we can fabricate that in our universe. But then the question comes up, is that knowledge that we've always had inside of our universe, or was it knowledge that was a part of another universe that we used and added it to our universe?
I think the second one there is more true. It was information to gain, but you're gaining it based on the way your own universe works, even if you learned it from a different universe.
So our universe always had it, but we used an alternate universe to expand and learn that universe.
As a tool for learning, yeah. That one makes more sense to me anyway.
That does make sense, but what sucks is it's kind of derailing my original thought of information from other universes would be applicable in ours because, well, our universe always had that information. We just didn't know how to find it.
So I guess it depends on what box you're looking at, right? You and I started in this tiny little box in the corner of the very big box, right? Like, so we are always going to know things based on our already had experiences from that tiny little box in the corner of the very big box. However, if your existence started in a plane where you knew that all of these boxes existed and you had to learn the rules of all of them, you were living in the big box that could see all the small boxes. All of those things are still in your box, even if they're independent of each other. They're still they're all still in your frame of reference.
So then it comes down to perspective again. Whereas, are you one of the people in that tiny universe where your information in that universe is finite? Or are you in the bigger box where the information in the bigger box is encompassing all of the universes, but is still finite, just on a larger scale?
I'd like to think that if we were in the bigger box and we knew about other universes and we could know it for fact, we would know we were in the bigger box.
Yeah, but then we would probably get into our own heads and, or to a degree, understand that that bigger box is a part of another bigger box.
Well, yeah, you'd obviously cluster boxes. Like, they'd have to be grouped together. Imagine no organization for all of the universes that have...
All right, you know what? I love where this has went, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. Why don't if you manage to watch this and get to the end of this derailed, confusing, less energetic, but more philosophical, perhaps, discussion, let us know in the comments what you think about that. If you understood it, if you agree, if you disagree, if you didn't understand it, hit us with that.
Or if you have more thoughts. I like thinking.
I thoroughly enjoy thinking, but like, for fuck's sake, man, my brain hurts.
Yeah, that was a whole lot of thought.
It was, and I hate that it's thought that perplexed and countered my own thoughts. I'm not disagreeing that what you said was right, but I'm also not throwing away my own opinions on the idea yet.
The right answer to this, both sides of this debate, are somewhere in the finite amount of knowledge, and we just have to get there. I
know! Shut up! Son of a bitch! Ha!
Universe is Schrodinger's box, confirmed.
So then what happens when someone opens up the box, huh? Do we die?
Well, no, opening the box is finding out the knowledge. I mean, maybe we're already dead. Who knows?
Pandora's box? Maybe.
Yeah, it's not a big bang. It's just the box of all the universes just being let out, and that we are the plague for the next universe. They don't happen side by side. Fuck. They happen in line.
Well, anyways.
Yeah.
My brain hurts, so let us know in the comments what you think. Check out our Discord. If you're not a part of it, there'll be a link in the description. You can find the attempted start of this podcast in the Discord. I drew a blank, man. It was a fucking bad blank too. But anyways, that's all I've got.
Yep, I think we're all wrapped up.
I'll drink to that.
And then
while Bud's, water.
But... Yeah, well, and I'm out of beer. While Bud's drinking there, we also have a guest next week. If you catch this before next week, don't ruin the surprise for yourself.
Surprise.
A surprise. English is definitely my worst language. But yeah, so be on the lookout for that too. All right.
Let's end this as awkwardly as we can.